Hello, hello. Welcome back to One Day One Hack. My name is Ashraf, and today I'll be talking about how to turn tragedy into triumph. And to rock the mic today, I brought Kat Chrysostom on the show. She is a founder and the owner of Benefit Products. She is also the chief designer of every product in the Benefit line. She has a book, Broken to Branded, where she shares how she fought back and rebuilt her life by building a successful business. Whether you are just starting your career or considering to become an entrepreneur, Broken to Branded is good for you as it has inspiration stories and practical tools for success, along with real talk about what it really takes to build a business. Remember the book's name, Broken to Branded. She will tell us the story on how she went from her lowest point to become a successful person.
Welcome to One Day One Hack, the podcast that's guaranteed to help you be the best version of yourself. Each week, we'll share a new trend of business strategies and life hacks that'll enable you to maximize your full potential. Now, let's welcome our host, Ashraf.
Kat, say hello to our listeners and share one thing about yourself that most people might not know.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to be talking to your audience and talking with you today. Oh, gosh, one thing most people don't know about me, because there's a lot about me on the internet. But one thing is I do love to travel. In my somewhat of downtime, once a year, I always try to take some really fun vacations. So One thing that people don't know about me is last year I actually went and spoke in a women's prison in Uganda in Africa last year. To help empower the women who are struggling over there. And so that was really, really cool. But that's one thing I think almost no one knows about me. So there you go.
You gave a speech there?
Yes. Yeah. I gave a speech to actually at two different places in Uganda, but one was a women's prison and the other was inside of a village called Light Village. And it was with One City Ministries. So it was with a big group of men and women, probably 100. Yeah. And
with the ministry.
Yes, it was amazing. It was amazing. I was able to share my story and hear their stories and just encourage them to live the life that they want. So it was really, really cool. But that's one thing a lot of people don't know about me.
Wow. Yeah. And are they all, working?
The people in Uganda?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, their work is very different than what we consider work. But yeah, they were all working. Most of them had farms or like small, not farms, but small homes with little like gardens and agricultural farming, and they would raise their own animals, and life is very hard there. So seeing that was an eye-opener for me, but it was also it was amazing to be in their culture and, live in the village for 10 days. It was really,
wow.
Yeah.
10 days.
Yes.
I would love to go there too. I mean, I want to feel the hotness there.
Yes, it was amazing. It was amazing. And the people were so nice. They were so nice. So.
Oh. Nice. Well, might consider to go there maybe next year.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, that's really something I don't know about you. I would love to do an episode just about that story alone. But as I already mentioned in the intro, we are going to talk about how to turn tragedy into triumph. So, Kat, let's first talk about the tragedy that you had before turning it into triumph. I've heard that you have been through a tragic moment that you would call it a nightmare. What is this nightmare that you have experienced?
So we have to go back to 2011. I
Mm-hmm.
was, and I know a lot of the listeners are probably in college. I think you said earlier that you were in college yourself. So I was studying actually pre-med, so science. I was a biology major and was in my third year of school and was really just kind of burnt out. I was taking a lot of hours. I was doing overtime, and I was also studying during the summer. So I was really just tired. Looking at medical universities, med schools, and I took a trip down to Florida for spring break. And everything was going really well. I was actually riding a horse, which a little bit background on that. I've always loved horses.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up riding and in a animal loving family. My mom was actually a rider herself, and we had
Ah.
horses growing up. So I was pretty well schooled in horseback riding and knew horses really well, was always very confident on them. And I
Mm-hmm.
come down to Florida. I was riding a friend's horse actually back to the barn. And the ride was lovely, and it was a gorgeous Florida day. And as I was riding back, we were approaching this embankment with a little bit of uneven ground over like a real large drop for drainage. And the horse stumbled, and unlike most stumbles, he didn't catch himself. So we ended up tumbling over one another, and we dropped about 15 feet down. And really, in that split moment, like my life as I knew it had totally changed.
Damn.
So what happened was I woke up in the in Shands Trauma Center, which was a teaching hospital here in the trauma ward, and was basically told that I was temporarily paralyzed. They didn't know if I would ever ride or walk again. I had a triple fracture in my C2 vertebrae, which is also known as a hangman's fracture.
Wait, how long do you paralyze?
So I was paralyzed off and on for 18 months.
18 months. Wow.
Yeah, so a long time. And it was really, the scariest part about it was fear of the unknown. Like, I didn't know if there were some days where I was completely paralyzed. There were some days where I was partially paralyzed, and there were other days where I had more mobility. So it was this like just waiting game and trusting that it was going to get better. But when you have like such up days and such down days, it's so hard to stay, positive. So, and I also found out about 3 days in, I was on a ventilator in the hospital. I wasn't breathing completely on my own. And I found out that the horse was not going to make it. And he had been severely injured too. And it was a terrible accident that really just stopped my whole world, honestly.
Is the horse died?
He did.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah. Very, very sadly. And I felt like, it was touch and go, with my own health, but I felt like in a weird way almost guilty for that. There were just so many different emotions and feelings and me just fighting for my own, health. So it was a long road to recovery, but to say the least, it was very daunting and scary to even think about going back to school. So my whole life just changed. I lost my scholarship. I had a full scholarship at the time. I had always identified being a rider and being athletic and being academic. I was very goal driven in school and was good at school. I loved research. I loved learning new things. And all of that, I felt like on that day was just taken out from underneath me.
So you lost the scholarship too?
The scholarship was actually provided through the state at the time. I'm sure that I could have gone back and attained that scholarship, but with the
Mm-hmm.
health issues, I was just totally overwhelmed. And I also had, it was a pretty severe accident. So I was in the ICU and in the hospital for quite some time. So with being in there, the medical bills were astronomical. And they were stacking up, and I was a student. I didn't have much, and I didn't have really any income to speak
Mm.
of. And so that was very scary too, because I didn't know what was going to happen, and I ended up going into a lot of debt because of the accident. So it was just a very hard time in my life.
So how did you get out of the hospital?
I got out, actually, thank God. I have very supportive parents, and they came down and they got me. Um, they brought me back up to South Carolina, which is where I'm from, on the East Coast in the U.S. So I went back home, and basically they helped rehab me for about 3.5 months. It was a slow, time. And at the time, I was in a halo traction device, which
Hello.
is it's like a cast for your neck. But
Ah,
yeah, so it has 4 screws, 2 in the front and 2 in the back, and these metal rods that come up and they screw onto your skull. Um,
what?
yeah, it looks like a medieval torture device or something. It looks terrible. Anyhow, I was in that for 3.5 months. And like, I don't know if you can see, but I have scars on 4 scars on my head. And so that stayed on for 3.5 months. So during that time I was very immobile. And when I finally got out of that halo and into a hard neck collar, I started to be a little bit more independent, but I had a caretaker living with me for almost 2 years post accident.
Mm. That is really terrifying than I expected. I mean, I thought you just stumble and then go to hospital like normal people would do.
No, it was
But
a long, long road. I know. I like you and I, we can talk about this in a matter of, 10, 30 minutes. And it's like it took years. Yeah.
yeah, I could imagine you like I don't know how to say, but yeah, you said it was like this, right?
hmm Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
it had like a very hard, it was a carbon fiber vest, and the vest is sheepskin lined. So it has like wool on the inside, and it's cranked really tightly on your whole torso. And then it has 2 rods in the front and 2 rods in the back, and it has like literally a halo around your skull, and then 4 screws.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I never thought about that. I
Yeah.
mean, so you were paralyzed and then you wear a halo thing in your head and you can't even walk for a long period of time, 18 months, right?
hmm
So how do you convince yourself to walk again? Because people told you that you cannot walk again, you cannot ride horses. So how do you convince yourself to change that?
So I wish I could say it was one thing, and it really wasn't. I would say that in my recovery, a lot of it was me just keeping on pushing. One of my favorite quotes of all time was by Winston Churchill when
Hmm.
he said, "If you're going through hell, just keep going." And it's really true. Like there were some really, really dark moments in my recovery, and just, generally in life. Like I speak a lot, and one of my favorite things to do is to do goal setting workshops.
Mm.
With groups of people. I've done them, like I said, in prisons, to colleges, high school students, really to adults all over. And one thing I found in the goal setting is that there's always somebody who says like they just feel stuck. And, I can relate to that because I really was paralyzed. But a lot of people feel, especially young people, feel paralyzed in their own minds, maybe not
Mm-hmm.
literally like I was. But when you feel that way, I think the most important thing to do, whether you feel like you can or you believe in yourself, is just keep moving forward. Whether that's one step at a time or 20 steps at a time, like just keep moving. And that's what I did. I mean, I set goals for myself that I look back on now, and I think it's hard for me to even believe that those were goals. I mean, it was 5 steps, walking on a treadmill for 1 minute. It was really small steps, but the point is that if I didn't do that, I would never get to 10 steps or 15 or 20. And today I'm blessed that I am fully mobile. I did push through it. But I think that would be, it was a combination of a lot of things, but that's my one takeaway that I can give to everyone, is that when you are going through a hard time or a dark moment, just keep going. Like, little actions become huge action.
Take a baby steps and
Yes.
keep pushing, right?
Yep,
Keep moving
absolutely.
forward. I love that. I love your spirit. You didn't let others tell you that what you would become, right? You were like, oh man, I don't want to stay on a bed or a chair forever. I
Right.
still have a chance to live, right? It's like a story of a superhero movie.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because actually, I don't know if you're familiar with Superman, but the Superman movie Superman was played by Christopher Reeves. And what's interesting is Christopher Reeve actually had the same accident on a horse that I had, and he was wheelchair bound for the rest of his life. And so it's interesting you say that, because I look at him and his story, and it really speaks to me, because
Really?
I relate to it.
Kat Clark. To our listener, Kat just told her story about the tragedy that she has been through for the past 10 years. It's 10 years, right?
9 years it'll be 9 years in March. So it's about 8.5 years. Yeah.
Oh, still 9 years. All right. So although there are people keep telling her that she can't walk, she can't ride horse anymore, that doesn't stop her from achieving a higher success. Kat, now that our listener knows what kind of tragedy that you had, maybe they also experienced something that is just as bad as yours. So I want to make sure that they can recover from that as soon as possible. So, Kat, let's talk about your steps to turn your tragedy into your greatest triumph. What are the steps that you take to become a successful person?
I think that obviously I already said, always keep moving forward. Taking small action will, create big outcomes. I think that for me, one of the things that's so important as an entrepreneur, and just to rewind, like I said, like I was in college to study medicine. I was not in college to become a business owner, that's for sure. I have learned a lot through trial and error. And it's every day is a new, is new education for me. And every deal that I do, I learn something new as my business has grown. But I think for me, I didn't have my accident and then have this like aha idea and build this big business around it. What I did is I took every opportunity that presented itself that I thought maybe had some room to grow. And that's how I found my business and my company. And since then, I've just been able to grow it. So I think that a lot of those steps are, yes, taking action, but also seizing opportunity. No matter, how tired you are or defeated you feel, like you can never get anywhere if you don't take opportunity. Let people invest in you. Find if an opportunity knocks, you've got to open the door. Opportunities don't fall in your lap, but they present themselves. And when they do, I think the biggest thing is, especially at the start of your life, when you're in your 20s, like just take every opportunity you can.
What kind of opportunity?
So for me, my opportunities came in very odd forms. But so just to give you a little bit of a background on, how I started my business, I was in my accident. Obviously, I wasn't mobile and I was having a lot of trouble in my recovery. And my neurologist had recommended far infrared light therapy. So it's a red light therapy. Actually, the Eastern countries use a lot more of that than we do in Western culture in the U.S. So it was something a little bit newer for our culture. And I went and sat in front of the light. And that is really what gave me my whole life back. Like not only my mobility, but it gave me my life. I felt I had terrible migraines. They started to go away. My mobility started to improve. My overall outlook on life started to improve. Just generally, I started to feel a lot better. And to me, like I look for opportunity in everything. So I felt like I didn't know what the opportunity was with that light, but I knew that if it changed me, like it did, I knew there was an opportunity there. So I started exploring, that light more. And through that, I developed products that utilize that same therapy and have helped heal thousands of people and animals around the world. We do primarily dog and horse products. But that's what I mean by opportunity. It's, in adversity always lies opportunity. It's just, are we going to be defeated by the adversity, or are we going to dig deeper and find the opportunity that's there? So that's what I encourage people to do always, is look for that opportunity.
Taking action and taking opportunity. And I'm curious, is that infrared heals you? How is that infrared heals you?
Yeah, so the far infrared light is, it's the healing properties of the sun. So it doesn't have the UV rays that are damaging to our skin and our system, but it has all the healing properties of the sun. So it helps to increase blood circulation and reduce swelling. So for me, the blessing was that my spinal cord was not severed. So I had a bruised and inflamed spinal cord. But that's why I was in and out of paralysis, is when that inflammation would be worse. And I would have, down days. That was because the bruising was more severe and it wasn't, healing. So that light helped reduce that inflammation. And certainly helped. You can see my dog back there.
Dog.
So funny. He's sleeping back there.
Oh God. Good boy.
Clearly, I'm a dog lover.
Oh, you're also a pet lover.
He's so funny. That's anyway, but yeah, so that infrared light helped reduce the swelling. So that's really what gave me my life back. And I wanted to take that opportunity and share that, that same therapeutic function with other people.
So you take the healing process into your business.
Yes.
That's great.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love that you take advantage of that. And Kat, now that your life has been better than ever, I mean, you are an owner of a successful business. Your work is all based around your passion, which is really amazing. and you are still in your 20s,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you do that? How do you build a business in your 20s? Besides taking opportunity and taking action, how do you build one?
Sure. So, yes, I'm 28. You're not
Hmm.
mistaken. I am still. um, I mean, building a business is complex. It requires a lot of. It requires all of your time and energy. Um, and it also requires the ability to say this isn't working. And start, a new process quickly. So I refer to that as fast failing, or a lot of people refer to it as fast failing. I love to call it failing forward. So for me, building a business was a lot of figuring out what not to do,
What not to do?
through doing the wrong things. And through,
Mm.
that mentality, just always failing forward, trying something new. If it didn't work, being able to say, hey, I was wrong, coming back to that, redesigning something, and then going forward quickly. That's been a ton of my, success,
Mm.
and the secret, I guess you could call it, to it.
Accepting failure. That's
Yes.
what you mean. Ah.
Yep, exactly. Now, if something is going well, it's like, listen to the marketplace and keep moving forward, and push, what you can. But a lot of it has been, being an entrepreneur, you don't have the ability of like a big corporate company who has millions of dollars in funding behind them. You don't have that leeway. So for me, like, budget is tight, cash flow is hard. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different things that come into to play. So a lot of it is using your best judgment, and also, knowing what your goals are. So that has been massive for my success, is goal setting. Goal setting is number one. Every morning I check in with myself for 5 to 10 minutes, and every night I check in with myself for 5 to 10 minutes. I do goals for the day, goals for the week. And then I
Mm.
also do 90-day goals. So I'm constantly keeping myself accountable, and holding myself to what, my goals are. And if I don't reach those goals, then I'm revisiting them and I'm journaling that every day. So that has helped me tremendously in my success. And that's actually something that I just started doing within the past. I've always done goal setting, but to that extreme, I've started doing that this past year. And that has been just absolutely, it's changed. It's really changed my life in the sense that it's given me more time, and it's every day I'm prioritizing correctly, which has saved me a lot of time and energy. And I also have a team of people. I have employees that I'm leading. And when I started this, obviously I was by myself, but it changes it
Mm.
when you are the leader of a team. They're not only do I have to be accountable to me, but I also need to be accountable to them. So that's what I would say, that those are the biggest things, is failing forward and also holding yourself accountable, and really goal setting. And I actually talk about that a lot in my book. So this is my book, Broken to Branded. But I walk
Mm-hmm.
through literally down to, I love to tell stories. So I tell stories about
That's
how I
good.
failed, and how I came out of it, and, how I built the business. I talk about opportunity and building a brand, and, what to do when you are low on capital, and you don't have enough cash, like how to keep moving forward. So I really
Mm.
talk in depth about that in my book. And I do it in an approachable way. I really tell real life business stories that I experienced.
It's all about accepting failure and keep moving forward, keep failing forward. And
Yes.
also you have to fail fast. The faster you fail, the faster you learn.
Yes, exactly. And the faster you succeed. I mean, if we allow ourselves to get down on failure, you have no time to do that because there's always somebody behind you in a competitor or somebody who is going to have more energy or more time or whatever that is. So there's not any time to wallow in your own sorrows, and feel defeated. So the biggest thing is, always keeping that positive mindset, being cautiously optimistic, and really just pressing through those hard times. That's the biggest thing, and holding yourself accountable, knowing exactly what you want, and exactly what your goals are, what you want to build, and then keep moving towards that target.
Kat, one of the things that I learned to achieve our goals is to ourselves, we must achieve that. And why do we must achieve that? Make the reason right.
You broke up a little bit, Ashraf. Can you
Ah,
repeat that last thing that you said? I'm sorry.
oh, one of the things that I learned to achieve our goals is we have to say to ourselves that we must to achieve that. And why do we must achieve that? So we have to tell ourselves that we must, and why do we must? That's what I learned in the past.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And what we believe is, I truly believe this. I think that what we envision and what we believe is what we get. So if we don't believe that we're going to achieve what we want, then we won't. You really have to always keep that positive belief in yourself, and in whatever you're doing, whether that's graduating with a really high GPA, or becoming a doctor, or becoming a lawyer, or becoming an entrepreneur, whatever that is. Or maybe you already are an entrepreneur and you just want to grow your business. It starts in your head. It starts in your belief. So I think, you're absolutely right. We must believe in ourselves.
So to our listener, these steps that you listen today is one of the best steps to turn your tragedy into triumph, because it's coming from a person who has been there before. So if you feel weak or broken, listen to this episode again and use these steps to motivate you. I will show you that you will be better than before. Right, Kat?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And if
Yep.
you guys want, if the listeners would like to read a copy of the book, we do sell an online Kindle version as well as the actual hard copy, and that's on Amazon.com if they just search Broken to Branded. And that goes into a lot more detail. But yes, absolutely. Everybody can achieve what they want with the right mindset.
Nice. All right, Kate. We are close to an end today. So, what's the final takeaway that our listener will really get from our chat today? And share with us how we can find more about you and how to connect with you.
Absolutely. So I think for the takeaway, what I really want people to know from my story is that we all have a story. Everybody has their own unique life and story. And the most important thing is to know that your story is what's most important. And you can make your story anything you want starting from this day forward. So I just encourage everyone to sit down, write out what you want your life to to look like, and work backwards from that. Create a plan to get there and start living that life today, because it's never too late. And it's certainly never too early. So that's what I would recommend. And as far as for people to find me, if you want to look at our business and connect with me, you can find us at benefabproducts.com. That's Benefab, FABproducts.com and just press the contact us button, and that message will be forwarded to me if you guys just address it to me. So you can get in touch with me there. You can also read the book, find it on Amazon.com, and they do ship worldwide. So if you're outside of the US, you can order it on our website. If you're in the US, if you're outside of the US, go to Amazon.com and just search Broken to Branded.
So go check out benefitproduct.com and also Kat's book, Broken to Branded, as it will fire up your day. And oh yeah, Kat, how do you spell your last name? I mean, it might confuse some people.
Yes, of course. So it's Kat with a K, K-A-T, and last name is Chrysostom. It's Chrysostom.
Go check that out. So Kat, thank you for sharing your inspiring stories and lessons with us. Really appreciate to have you here. And for the listeners, I'll catch you another time.
Would you like to know more about business strategies and life hacks that could make your life more productive? If so, subscribe to our podcast now so you don't miss out later. Remember, always hack your day.